Overture is a foundation incorporated under the Linux Foundation.
The Overture data would be for free.
It's about building partnerships and collaboration.
Overture will enable all the data in the world to be registered on that open reference and be interoperable.
I think it's a good thing, but I need to know more.
This panel is about developing new open map data models, which means addressing how we are going ahead towards making this open map more powerful, more seamless, and addressing the future generation demand of the maps. So this backdrop, we have a new organization being formed as Overture Maps Foundation, which has been founded by 4 big tech companies: Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, and TomTom, and several other companies have joined. So let's hear from them what they have in their minds. So let me welcome my panels, Erik, who is chair of Overture Maps Foundation and also the head of maps at Meta. Then we have Willem, vice president of products for maps, TomTom. Ingrid, who represents the government here. Ingrid is the Director General of Belgian Mapping Agency. And then we have Nick Land, who is the Business Development Manager, Esri, UK. So let's start. What are those new map models? What are those new driving directions which made you guys build this organization or form this organization?
Thank you, Sanjay. Yeah, it's super exciting to be here. And to your question, there's actually 3 things happening that are driving the existence of Overture. The first one is that there is an exponential, it's all exponential, an exponential growth in demand on maps. Many use cases that we can't fulfill today, but that would be great to fulfill. So that there's an increasing demand for all sorts of things, from very niche to very sort of more advanced, like automated driving, etc. That's one. The second thing that's happening is that there is an explosion in sensor data coming from cars. And that sensor data allows us to create some of that content. Third is open data, which has slowly, steadily, surely improved a lot in the past couple of decades. So more and more data is getting out in the open, and that sort of those 3 things together mean that we need to go to a different model of map making, where there is an open, common reference that everybody can add on to, because there's so much that you can't do it all as a single company.
Oh, thanks very much, Willem, for highlighting the role of other data systems which are coming in. So, Ingrid, so what do you think about when this Overture Maps Foundation comes with an open platform, which has not only like foundation map, but a lot of other information in that? How is it going to be, or it could be, a part of the national geospatial portals?
So for me, as a mapping agency, I have not yet a very clear view on Overture Maps Foundation. I hear about it, I read here and there, but what's the business model? What's the goal? That's very unclear. So it's difficult to say what I expect from it, but I do see that it can be a leverage for governmental open data to be more used and more available. So I think it's a good thing, but I need to know more to see whether it will really get to that good point. And the main worries I have as a governmental agency is when Europe launched the open data policy, there were some projections on the return on investment, and it would be 1 to 5, 1 to 10, who knows more? No limit to the return on investment. Now, as a mapping agency, we only face less income and more costs. And the return on investment is not coming to the mapping agency. But I sincerely hope it's coming to the government in a way. And I even more sincerely hope, and I'll do everything I can to avoid it going to the shareholders of a big company, because it's meant to go back into society for the benefit of society. And so that's the glasses I will look through to see whether I like or not Overture Maps.
That sets the question to Erik, because Erik is also the chair of the Overture Maps Foundation. So Erik, you got the question from Ingrid that, hey, I want to know more. So let's have two things. What do you think is actually in terms of the unique features and characteristics of the Overture Maps Foundation or this platform? And what you think you can offer in terms of the value of business model in terms of transparency, as well as what is in it, do you think, for the governments?
The best maps are the ones that are built with lots of users giving feedback, that are used broadly across many, many different use cases. And no single company has all the signals to cover all of that. And so we realized early on that there's an opportunity here where we can collaborate across many different industries, we can collaborate across corporates, and at the same time involve cities, local governments, and other agencies that are interested in working in the open at scale with data. When we started building this foundation, it was open data license, transparency. We put it under the Linux Foundation, and it's operating as its own entity. And what that gives us as from the corporate world is a place where we can put data at scale. So we generate lots of data. TomTom, Amazon, Microsoft generates lots of data. This is a place where we can put it out in the open. We can collaborate on it. We can collaborate on the quality control. We can standardize and make sure we use the same schemas, make sure there's interoperability, all of those things like that. But it's also a place where we can take in other sources from cities and governments that are willing to share that data in the open and maximize the usefulness of that across products. So it's built for products.
So what you're saying is basically that your platform is going to be a kind of platform where you are offering your map data for access to anybody and everybody who wants to use that.
Yep.
So there is no other restrictions around that.
No. There's an open data license, no restrictions on that, except for the license terms, which, and there's no monetization. We're not making any money out of this. It's an open data project. It's run formally by the Linux Foundation.
So this is the kind of commitment of the group of these companies to support open data platforms and make whatever information you want to share with the public for better quality of life and making use of the information more. Yep. You want to say something, Willem, on that?
There's indeed no business model. The key is that it is an open reference, right? So Overture will not have all the data in the world, right? But it enables all the data in the world to be registered on that open reference and be interoperable. And that is the key. And Overture in itself, again, no business model, no not-for-profit. But the companies that are founding it ultimately see that there is a benefit to having that open reference, right? Which enables commercial models for those companies, right? That's why we exist. But the fundament of Overture is open.
Nick, you represent Esri and you've been in this business for long. And you also understand government very well. What is your motivation of joining this institution? And what do you think is the role of Overture Map Foundation in building the larger geospatial knowledge infrastructure?
The aim here is to improve the fundamental data that's available and then can be turned into knowledge. So picking up on some of the points Ingrid made, I think what we need to do, we need to build on the high quality national data that's available, bring that into Overture. But as we all know, there are gaps. We don't have good foundational data across the world. So I think we need sort of both a bottom-up and a top-down approach to provide that core fundamental data. But I think more widely, if we think about the ambition of GKI, it's about getting geospatial into the mainstream of the digital economy, right? That's the broader vision. And I actually see all of those at play in Overture. It's about building partnerships and collaboration, both with government and the private sector. It's about a level of industry leadership, I think, bringing, resource and innovation, and addressing your point, Ingrid, about the challenge of cost. I mean, your remit is primarily national. It's not really about building global data sets. Or if it is, it's a very small part of what you do. And as you say, you don't necessarily have the budget to do it. So I think, sharing that cost burden is important.
I think Ingrid wants to say something.
The challenge is, and it's the same for everybody, is how to capture the diversity and the different levels of information that's available, and the different traditions, models, whatever, into something that you could call the global data sets.
Yeah.
I was discussing on the trip here, I was discussing about a seminar about long-term views, long-term scenarios for where's the world going. Well, that's where, from a governmental point of view, this is very important for us, this longer term.
So quality is something which is very important, and so as probably the trust will come very soon. Erik, you want to respond to this?
Yeah, I can just mention an example that we did for the first pre-release, alpha release of Overture that we did last month. Was we took open data published by the USGS of aerial LiDAR data of the US. They have data that covers almost all of continental US. And based on that data, based on extracting building footprints from aerial imagery, we combine those two and we create a 3D building data set from that. And that data set is put into Overture for parts of the country now. And then companies like our companies are going to use it, and others, in mapping products, and you will see those beautiful visualizations where you have 3D buildings in all these metro areas. And that connects the data that was collected by the USGS to real consumer value in the hands of users. And that's where I think we can play a nice role as a public-private collaboration. And all of it is in the open.
So I'm already getting a lot of questions, indicators. There is 4 people who are in the queue. So please go ahead quickly, shoot your question.
Hi, everyone. My name is Miriam Gonzalez. Why right now, what I hear about importing from the governments, about giving back, is like hearing, what OpenStreetMap has been doing for the last 17, 20 years. So why repeating that again with Overture and not taking advantage of what OpenStreetMap is giving and also keep supporting?
Thank you very much. The question is probably that how is your initiative augmenting other existing initiatives and adding some value to that? Please.
My organization is deeply committed to OpenStreetMap. That doesn't change. We have a long-standing relationship of working with OpenStreetMap. Same goes for TomTom, same goes for the other players. We are all active organizations in the OpenStreetMap space as well. And for many years, we've been making this vandalism-free, QA'd version of OpenStreetMap that we released as Daylight. And over the years, we added more and more files, like that we sidecar files, to the download of data that we generate at scale, but we're not able to put into OpenStreetMap because, well, mass imports are not really compatible with the community individual editing model. And so as the number of sidecar files grows, and we have a desire to take data that we have in our organizations and publish it, we need a forum to publish that data at scale. Having said that, the main data source and all of the community activity for Overture is going to happen in OpenStreetMap. So that doesn't change. We just published, my teams published a new version of Rapid for editing OpenStreetMap. We're investing in that too for all of the community activities. But as a layer on top of that, where we can publish data at scale, then we need a new initiative like Overture. And
so at TomTom, we also are very, very supportive and very impressed by how OpenStreetMap has grown over the past 20 years. And as I said in my opening statement, it is a core part of why Overture is happening, because OpenStreetMap reached a level that is so good that that it just begs for something like Overture that adds a layer or adds automation and stable IDs, etc., that make it more suitable for enterprise use, living in coexistence, right? That is the goal.
Are you also adding cutting-edge IT technology into the platform which can help translation from data to knowledge in our platform, like Overture Map platform?
So
AI, ML,
Overture,
all that power.
Jan-Erik gave an example, right, of buildings. That sort of large-scale automated data additions are possible in Overture, right?
Yeah.
On an OpenStreetMap road network, right? So it will connect, and because it's open, also OpenStreetMap can use some of it.
So, Nick, you want to add something on this topic?
Well, just to say, I think this is key, because the focus is very much on the data at this point. But certainly from Esri's perspective, it's about putting the data into the hands of the users. So we need to take advantage of the capabilities within GIS to make this data, as we were discussing before, easy to find, easy to access, easy to use, and then use those geospatial capabilities to analyze the data, to model the data, to get to the point where we answer the questions.
Thank you. Greg, please go.
Thank you, and it's been great to hear this. I'm hearing a lot of promise, and that promise is huge, and the expectation that goes with that is huge. And I wonder, with the 100 or so countries that are not here, what that means to them once we get out of, say, urban environments, and if we're thinking about developing countries and sustainable development, what does that really mean in helping countries along? And what's the context of some of that data? And in that context, is it about, well, we're going to do Europe first or continental US first, or are we going to do this more broadly across, for example, Africa or Asia, or what's that model on how that might work? Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you very much for taking and bringing that dimension. So, Erik, up to you.
Yeah.
What are you going to do for the regions which are unmapped, or rather less mapped?
Okay, so the Overture Maps Foundation is an open data project. So we put the data there, we collaborate on the data, we work on it, we release it, anyone can use it. And then people build products on top of that. And so Meta will build products on top of that, TomTom will build products on top of that, you guys build products on top of that, anywhere you want, right? So there are no products as part of the open data project. And so the question about what geographies and what parts of the world to focus on it's an open project. It's being governed by the members who join it, and the priorities, we're looking like we're going to do like 6-month planning and priorities right now, but the operational side is still early. But when we plan and direct the activities of the foundation, it's being directed by people who join it. And so if we have members that join in certain geographies, then the interest in those geographies are going to go up. But having said that, the founding partners all have global markets, and our user base is global.
Okay. Anyone wants to add on this? Yes, Ingrid, please.
I have some. Listening to all the comments and so on, my thoughts are going, okay. And one of the big questions is, when I heard you say this is a project, to me, a project has a start date and an end date. And what's after the project? When I talked about the long term, is this getting you wanted and then getting you needed and then getting you pay it, or what's the point?
Yeah, so business model is very important, right?
Right.
Well, many of the...
Who pays for this?
That's two questions. The first question, how long will it last? Well, as Jan-Erik was saying, as I will say, we are building at TomTom our business on top of this. If this stops, our business stops. right? It's that simple.
If your business stops, this stops.
No, it's not the other way around, because there are many members. Yeah? So it can have some sort of impact, but there are many members, and if one of them falls away, then Overture will still continue. Yeah, so our motivation is for this to last forever, because our business needs to last forever.
So it's a kind of global geospatial open platform being created, crafted, and maintained, and probably promised by the commercial world. Are you getting there, Ingrid?
I have not yet. If I'm talking about digital data, I want to know what's the archiving policy, what's the update policy, what's the long-term distribution, and so on and so on. So I'm not looking at the immediate satisfaction of my consumer needs. I'm looking at a long-term vital or essential element of a knowledge society, and I want to know more of that.
Quick comment from Nick and then Erik.
One very quick comment to hopefully reassure Ingrid a bit. If I think back to Esri's experience with our community-based maps program, that's something we started 12 years ago, probably, and it has endured. And it's proved to be very beneficial because it's allowed, it actually started, it was driven by users who said they wanted to make their data more accessible, more usable. And so that was the origin of it, and it grew and it grew and it grew. And so I see this as very similar. It's a different initiative, but it's very similar and with some different players. So I think it can be done, and I think what we did with the community-based maps is a nice example of that.
Yeah, thank you. Erik, you want to add quickly before I go to Frank?
Yeah. And first, apologize twice. Once for using the loaded word project. It is a foundation. And second, we did announce it 2 weeks after the foundation was created publicly. But your question about longevity?
Yeah, longevity.
Yeah. Of the project is a good one. Overture is a foundation incorporated under the Linux Foundation. And the Linux Foundation has a long history in the digital age of managing I don't want to say the P word again. Foundations. Managing initiatives like this, right? It's not like since the 1700s, but it's at least since the beginning of what we call the...
So there is some promise of longevity.
Yeah. No, so the foundation will be there as long as there are people who are interested in the output of the data, right?
Frank, please.
Thank you. Frank Tierhoff, Dutch Cadastre. We have some experiences at Dutch Cadastre with resellers of our data, authoritative data, bad experiences, good experiences. Every day complaints get in because of the wrong interpretation of the data. So I'm wondering, how can you guarantee the authoritative status of the data from NMAs like us? And how do you guarantee the right interpretation of the data?
So trust and authenticity. Who wants to take it? Willem.
Well, yeah, I'm happy to have a shot. So how can we guarantee the trust and authenticity? There are several ways, actually. If the data is open and we will, Overture will incorporate it, then Overture has quality assurance rules and all of that, plus people that are deeply steeped in maps, right? There's hundreds of years of experience with map making and map usage in that foundation and among the participants. So that's one. The other is you could also create a, you know, that's the beauty here, create a layer, register the cadastre data to the Overture reference, so that you say, you know, you have it on your, you distribute it, but it works with Overture. And you say, this is, you know, and you add the interpretation and how to use it, etc. Right? Take it in your own hands. Those are things I would see as maybe helpful in addressing some of your concerns.
So I'm left with 9 minutes and 4 questions in the queue. So please go ahead, gentlemen.
My question is that will this releasing model of Overture Maps Foundation data in the future still by following this way, major part plus some sidecars data with different licenses? And kind of, for me, is to leave this license harmonizing thing to the end users. Or you have already figured out some better way to do this harmonization stuff? This is yeah, my question. Thanks.
So now we are getting into nitty-gritties and technical stuff, so please go ahead.
It's a great question. We actually did get a bunch of questions after that first release and updated the page to clarify a little bit. But basically, when we as organizations publish data into Overture, we would like a very liberal license, which lets people do basically whatever they want. Attribution is the only requirement. But as Miriam brought up earlier, like, we are a downstream user of OpenStreetMap, and everything that is derived from OpenStreetMap or conflated with OpenStreetMap data gets the ODBL license. And you can also conflate the data that we share under the more liberal license with the OpenStreetMap data, and then everything becomes ODBL. But we want to be able to reserve the right to share data from us companies into the foundation that is non-ODBL for those users who prefer it that way. I hope that at least like high level explains. So there are two licenses that apply. Depends on what you want to use.
Thank you, Erik. Can we go to Tim, please?
Tim Trainer, President of the International Cartographic Association. So I want to paint a scenario. I'm a chief of a national mapping organization in a developing country. The colonial powers left a long time ago. I have maps that are very old, and in general, they're useless. They haven't kept up, and I have no digital data. But I want to be a member. What happens next?
Yeah. So what's the membership option for National Mapping Agency?
And what good am I going to get out of it to help my country actually get something?
So you're an organization, a government organization, you would like to join, but you don't have any data. Well, then you can join with your expertise and join the working groups and help the project.
So if you're this developing country, and so you can join, as Jan-Erik said, there's also, because we're a downstream user of OpenStreetMap, the OpenStreetMap has lots of tools that will help you start to get mapping in a very easy way.
So I think for any partnership, first is understanding each other better. So what we are doing here is kind of socialization, and what Tim had a question on how a national mapping organization can join and what could be the relationship in this. So last 20 seconds by each panelist, what do you see that we can do in collaboration with public-private partnership for building this platform better?
We want to build on all that open data that's available and add value to it.
Yeah, Ingrid?
We put the data out there so that you can build on it. And at the same time, as a government, we have certain needs for data which we don't have. And I think, just looking at my colleague here, the NGI pays a lot of money to TomTom so that we can distribute TomTom data to all governmental institutions at federal level. So we pay you for it, which is legitimate because it's a commercial activity, and it's cheaper for us to buy the data than to imagine to get the data in another way.
So there is a business model evolving.
No. What I say is I give my data for free, and when I need your data, I pay for it.
But the Overture data would be for free, right? Just final words. If you look, for me, would be if you look at this as a birth, right? We're 5 months old. And we're basically, this is one of the elements, one of the things we're doing. We're inviting everyone, right, to work together in the open. There's no contract you need to sign to join Overture. There's a nominal fee if you want to be a contributor. We have open house, essentially, right? And that's the model that we think that works and that will, over time, create the right discussions and the right data.
Yeah, I would just love to talk to all the regional and national mapping agencies in the room at this conference.
Wonderful. Thank you very much to everyone, and big round of applause to panelists and audience for discussions.